Dawn Watch is our pal Karen Dawn. Hi, Karen.
Hi.
You always look so glamorous. I love it.
I
Yeah.
was I don't know if I'm a bit washed out today. I've been banished from the house, so I'm out on the patio, and I don't know if the light.
No, you look great. You look better than I'm not banished anywhere, and my lighting is always an effort. So thank you for being with us. You look quite lovely in that in those environs outside.
I was. Yeah, I've got a glamorous statue next to me, at least. I was just sending off a note to Albert because we're going to talk about something later, and I have a gift article on my face. I have a gift article from the New York Times I can give folks, so we'll get to that.
Oh, okay, good. Well, then let's get right at it. Go ahead.
Well, first, I have to address this. When you mentioned that you've rightly insisted I include some happy stories. It's funny, when the reviews from my book came out, my favorite review from this gal, Elizabeth Castoria, included the line, or ended with the line, "I got in touch with both my manic and depressive sides while reading Thanking the Monkey," because it's packed with humor and cartoons. But, the subject matter is pretty darn bleak because, unfortunately, what we do with animals is pretty bleak. And I totally agree that it's in order to be sustainable and for people to stomach it, we have to show some of the joy. But we tend to go a little bit too far. The dodo just shows you one glorious, happy animal story after another. And those are important, and they remind us how wonderful animals are so that we do care about them. But
yeah, I agree.
Sad.
It's a tough target and a tough balancing act to do. But it's not just that, and we can. Then I'm curious to. It's not just that it then makes the bad stuff easier to handle. It's also because people work really hard for some good things and some incremental progress in the way of protecting animals, adopting animals, helping animals, sometimes really going to heroic extremes to help animals. And I hate for that stuff to always be crowded out by how awful it is for animals. And because where I sit, it is awful for animals. I could do show after show after show about it. But I'd like the people who are associated with and the stories that are associated with positive stuff with animals to also be celebrated. That's all I want.
I agree completely. One of my favorite sayings in life, and it's relevant to activism without a doubt too, is the truth lies somewhere in the middle, the Tao, the middle way. So today, let's try and get that right. We're going to start with the bad, and then we're going to move into the still being decided, and then we're going to go to the good, okay?
Okay, go ahead.
So the bad is, I'm never quite sure what we're going to talk about. And I woke up this morning to a story that 2 bears, grizzly bears, had been euthanized. And I hope Albert might have a photo of the grizzly article there. I hope he's got these things lined up. For having been too much around people and getting, and of course they didn't hurt anybody, but they were getting into their garbage and et cetera. And so they've been supposedly euthanized. Now, the story gets my goat for 2 reasons. One is the use of that word euthanized, which I think really matters. I'm going to talk about that in a moment. And the other is that I just can't believe we killed them when they didn't really do anything wrong. I mean, the problem is that people are leaving their garbage out, and the bears are getting habituated to humans. And so they decide, okay, they did the right thing the first time. They tried moving the 2 bears. It's a mother and her cub, and they even moved them together, which was really the right start. But once they moved them, the bears were so habituated that they found their way back to human communities where they could find easy buffets. And so now they've killed them. And I just think I'm glad we're getting a little bit better, that the first instinct wasn't just to shoot them. But there's got to be a better way. And I'm going to share there's a letter from the LA Times which ended with those exact words about some burros we're going to talk about in a moment. So, and I just want to propose this, and I'd be really interested. I wish I could see, you've got such a wonderful, vital commenting community there. But it seems to me we have all of these animals in zoos that don't want to be there and that we are holding captive because people want to look at them. And then we've got these bears who, no matter what we do, they keep coming back and finding human society because they want easy food. Don't those two belong in the zoo? And shouldn't we start breeding new ones for the zoo? And that might be simplistic, but I just want to throw that out there as a thought. There are animals who actually want to be around people. And so I just don't understand why we have other grizzly bears in the zoo. And on that note, you might want to chime in there, Mark, but I'm going to move next to this beautiful.
Well, I would just chime in just to underscore what an interesting solution, because you kind of face this thing. These are, horribly dangerous animals in the sense that if they decide to turn on you, they can, destroy
Unlikely,
you. And
yeah.
But unlikely, and they're scared. But on the other hand, they're habituated to humans. So what I get to, though, is I didn't expect from you to hear, oh, so you know what we ought to do? We ought to pluck them up and we ought to put them someplace where they're humans. And it's actually a very sensible suggestion. And I'm smiling about the fact that I never thought of it. I thought, well, this is tough. I don't know what you do in this situation. And you're saying, I'll tell you what you do. You take these creatures that are habituated and you move them into a situation where their habituation isn't an issue. The one thing I would say is I don't know how often you can do that before you fill the zoos with, these creatures that have been habituated because our people growth has now grown into their habitats. That's what's happened. So, but for the moment, at least it would stop the bleeding on that one situation, yet they euthanize those two creatures.
It's an interesting thought, isn't it? And I'm not saying it's the solution, and I'm not saying we can always do it, but I think it's funny that you were surprised to hear me say it. And that's because, as an activist, my favorite line is, the truth lies somewhere in the middle, the Tao, the middle way, which means just that it's not fine in many cases doesn't mean it's not fine in some. It's called nuance. I love nuance. But our whole society at the moment is so polarized, either this or this. Captivity is bad, captivity is good. And I'd love to move next to the story of Luna, right on this note, who was an orca. And I saw a documentary about her. And again, I hope Albert's got the... I saw this documentary a few years ago, and it has haunted me ever since. This was an orca who, for whatever reason, was wild, but was not part of a pod. And I'm going to guess he had a bit of Asperger's. He was rejected from his pod. Who knows? They are not that different from us. And just as in human society, there are those who don't fit in. Believe me, I was one in high school. There are orcas who may not fit into their own societies. So this guy was out on his own in the middle of the ocean. And he would just constantly come up to boats and he'd let people pet them, and they'd jump in the water and they'd swim with them. And of course, there was all this fear for human safety, but even more, there was so much fear that he was going to get hurt. And so those who really cared for him decided to make a law that you were not allowed to interact with him in any way. So this orca, who was totally used to coming up to humans and having them interact with them, suddenly you'd get a ticket if you interacted with them. And he's wondering why his favorite species is suddenly rejecting him. Eventually, he wasn't captured or anything. He eventually got killed by trying to swim near boats, and a propeller killed him. And I was watching that movie, and I am so anti-captivity and believe animals deserve freedom as much as humans do. But in this one instant, you had Lolita Toki, whose mother is swimming free in the Puget Sound, dying for her to come back to her in the Miami Seaquarium. And you've got Luna out in the ocean, desperate to be around people. And I'm like, what? If Miami Seaquarium really needs an orca, isn't this the one they should have? So again, and I'm not saying I'm right about this, I'm not saying it would have been the right answer, but I just can't believe they forbid people from interacting with this orca who desperately wanted to be around people. And we had the same situation with Freya, the walrus. And I think most people will be familiar with this, but it may be that I'm just so in my echo chamber of the animal world that, I don't know that not everybody knows this story of this beautiful walrus named Freya. And I hope Albert has some video of her, who so loved being around people that in Norway, she did make a nuisance. Do you have the video there?
Yeah, he's got it up now. He's got the video running now. Yep.
She made a nuisance of herself. I think you're going to see her. She's
she's
about
around the dock and she's creating.
She actually sank a few boats. So if you were a boat owner, it wasn't really a joke. On the other hand, if she sank your boat, of course it matters. But you've got a story for a lifetime, especially if you've got video of it and you've got insurance. Whereas thousands and thousands of people love to come and see Freya.
She was a massive attraction. She became massive attraction. Yeah.
She was beloved. And basically, I've got a letter I wrote to the Washington Post saying she got killed. Her crime was loving humans too much, wanting to be around them too much. And what my letter was about was that they called it a mercy killing. And I'm like, a mercy killing? This gal loved life. People loved her. And if you were really worried that she was going to hurt somebody, this is the answer. The ideal answer was to let her be. And if she sank a couple of boats, okay, in my opinion. But not everybody's going to agree with that. But wouldn't the second best answer have been to put this particular girl in the zoo? Not every other one, not all the other ones who don't be.
Sure.
And that's where we just have to do better. We have
to. Well,
to
because what happened with her was they shot her. They shot her dead.
Did they? I thought they euthanized her with a needle, but I don't really care which it was. It was. Oh, you're right.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I suppose. I mean, one seems more violent.
I said euthanized. I can't believe I used the word euthanized. It's so ingrained in our culture because this was not a euthanization. This was a killing. She wasn't sick. She didn't want to die. And so we just have to do better. And if we can't let them be in the wild like these grizzlies that we're scared are going to kill somebody, well, then on some occasions, let's bring them into a big captivity. And the difference between this, last week we were talking about the Mustang roundups and those animals ending up in captivity and the sorrow of their, what I call equine slavery. It doesn't have to be like that. It can be you get the whole family and you put them on a ranch or you put them in a lake and that it was more expensive. But that's where it comes to, do we prioritize non-human life or do we only care about human life? And that comes to, do we believe in a circle of life or a hierarchy of life? And if we do believe in a circle of life, I suggest we prioritize saving non-human lives and we don't say, we tried, but now we'll shoot her.
Well, what's so interesting is that we typically rally. We got to wrap up here, but I would love to. So I want to get to some of the. I think your positions are really interesting and courageous, given your background as a, nuance. But these are. It's the devil is in the details, and there are shades and contours to these questions. They're just not black and white. But if
we're going to wrap up, we're going to go to turtles.
Yeah, we will. But we'll go to turtles. But I just want to make the point that individual creatures of the sort that you featured and talked about, they actually do get a lot of the rallying around that we do as humans. We give them a name. We call them, isn't he cute? She cute? I mean, look at the way she interacts, etc. He interacts. I think we connect somehow, but then on the bigger issues with these creatures, we disconnect. It becomes something that's more of an issue than actually involving real creatures. Now to the turtle.
Well, even on the ones we connect with, we still shoot them. So let's at least start with, Freya still got shot. So how can we hope that we're going to care about, walruses at large if we let the government kill the ones we love? And I think
what a great call, though, to just take Freya and put her in an environment where she can interact with the public. Take it's a weird thing to hear, as I say, from an activist like yourself, but it really is something. Okay, tell me about the turtles.
And I just want to stress, I'm not saying that's okay to do with walruses in general. I think we have to remember these beings are individuals. They have individual personalities and individual desires. So the turtles. This was a gorgeous story in yesterday's New York Times. And as a subscriber, I get to give gift links. And I hope, Albert, you can let me know if I manage to share that gift link, that the tinyurl Dawn Watch gift link, and I hope you'll put it in the chat there. It was written yesterday in yesterday's New York Times, and it was by a school teacher who discussed a turtle who returns to the same spot every year to lay her eggs. And it's right near the volleyball court of a school. And the bad news is the reason she started laying there, it's apparently she's a climate change refugee, that where they used to lay has been washed out. So she's laid further up on the hill, and she laid them right near the volleyball of this school, this volleyball court of this school. And the kids loved the turtle, and they also wanted to play volleyball. So they got all these scientists in to work out where and because the mother, once she's laid the eggs, she doesn't sit on them like a penguin. She leaves them and hopes for the best. She does her very best by them, and then she leaves. So they, with the consultation of scientists, they dug up where they could rebury them so they could still play volleyball and the turtles would still do well. And they did this, and they've been doing this year after year. And now more and more turtles are coming to lay their eggs around this school, and it's become a turtle
That's really
habitat.
great.
And the kids dig up the eggs and replant them somewhere where they're even safer than the place that Mama found. And what I'm hoping, Mark, I don't want to have to run in and get new glasses, but on that post that Albert has up there, I've shared a paragraph or two just from this piece, which is so beautiful. And if your listeners or viewers go online to the New York Times link, the gift link I've given there, they can actually hear the woman who wrote the piece read it at an event. But can you share just those lines about our interacting with nature? Because I think that's a beautiful way for us to go out. Are you able to see that there? Put on my other
I can
glasses.
see it on the screen. Let me put my
I can put my glasses on my glasses.
put my
and people can
credibility
laugh.
glasses. Dawn Watch takes great pleasure. Is this the one in sharing this gift link to everyone?
Yes, yes.
And here's the quote from the Sunday edition of the New York Times. Quote, "We have betrayed the millions of other species with whom we share this leafy paradise with an extractive culture that threatens their inherent right to be. Turtles among us carry a warning. We need to acknowledge our unpaid debt and create solutions that protect not only our species, but our more than human relatives as well. They want to live too. We need more than policy change. We need a change in worldview, from the fiction of human exceptionalism to the reality of our kinship and reciprocity with the living world. The earth asks that we renounce a culture of endless taking so that the world can continue." Yeah, that's powerful. It really is.
I think seeing that in the New York Times is very good news.
Yeah, it really is good news. And the link is there for everyone to read the entire piece. Wow.
Right.
Thank you so much, Karen Dawn. We'll talk next Monday.
Oh,
You
it's
always
such a
look
pleasure.
lovely.
Thank you.
Really
Thank you
enjoy
for
it.
this opportunity.
Of course, you can communicate with Karen Dawn and get her newsletter, Dawn Watch. It'll hit your inbox automatically. So
And
check
the
out Karen
Facebook
Dawn,
page.
dawnwatch.com. What's that?
And the Facebook page is very active.
The Facebook page is very active. I've got to get on.
Dawn
I've got to become more active on Facebook. All right.
Watch Facebook.
Thanks, Karen. Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.